guys had a great week. I hope you've had lots of fun with your family and had the opportunity to kind of go through our packets that Miss Bettingfield and I put together for you this week and had a chance to just do some of the fun activities in it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a little quick review on some of the things that you did this week, and then we're going to get to do a science experiment. Because what day is it today? It's Friday, and that's why we have our Friday lab coat on. So it's going to be a really fun time. So sit down, get a chance to enjoy it. If you haven't already, go ahead and get your pieces of paper that we gave you for science, and then we'll go and do it together. How about that? All right, so first things first, I want to go over our art project. I don't know if you had a chance to do your art project yesterday, but we were making an apple. Now, why would we make an apple? What's an important thing about apples in our letter person? Miss A loves apples. And if you remember, I read a book on Tuesday, and what was she making? She was making an apple pie, right? But it wasn't just any apple pie. What kind of apple pie was it? It was an apple pie man, that's right. And he jumped out of the pan. And then she had to figure out a creative way to catch him. Now, did she catch him at the end of the story? She did, didn't she? And guess what? What did she do? She does something, Miss A does something when she's really happy that we don't normally do. What would that be? Achoo! Remember? She says achoo because it makes the ah sound in achoo, or an apple. So Miss A was really happy at the end of her book because she was able to catch her Mr. Apple Pie Man. All right, so we're going to review our art that we did yesterday. Now, you had your coffee filter, and you had the opportunity to cut two sides out of it, and we turned those into these two shapes up here. Now, what I want to ask you is we're going to talk a little bit about an apple, and we talked about the parts yesterday. Let's see if you can remember what they are and why they're important. So, if we look at this part right here, what is that called? That's called a stem, that's right. So if we have a real apple, this is the stem of the apple. Now, why is a stem important for an apple? What does an apple grow on? They grow on apple trees, right? So they hang off of a tree, just like this tree that I drew here. But the important part of a stem is when it rains and water comes down and it gets raining and all of that water goes into the soil, that water actually will come back up through the roots, come back up the trunk of the tree, and it will go down the branches, and it will go straight into that stem and go and make a healthy apple. So God made the rain so that he could water our apple trees so that we could have nice apples, juicy apples to eat. I think that's really neat. So that's the importance of a stem because it hangs off of the branches. Now, what is this called right here? A leaf, that's right. Now, when you go to the store and you buy your apples, do you normally see leaves? You don't, do you? They've normally already taken them off the stem. But leaves are super important because a leaf, even though you can't see it on your apple, it's on an apple tree. And what that does is when the sun is shining, the leaves actually get to catch that sunshine and they turn it into food for your apple and also for the tree to keep it healthy. So God had a plan for the leaves, and he also had a plan for the stem. He has a plan for every single part of this apple. So let's see what else we have going on. So we have that red part that's right here, just like this red part out here. Does anybody remember what the name of that is called? It's called the skin, that's right. It's just like our skin right here. And what does the skin do? What does the skin do for us? It kind of keeps everything in, right? Keeps us all safe from disease or anything like that. Well, that's the same thing here. The skin of an apple protects the juicy inside of the apple. And so it keeps it from getting bugs in it and different things like that. And so it can grow nice and healthy. So that red part that you drew was the skin of an apple. Now we have this white part right here. Does anybody remember what that's called? That's the good stuff, remember? That's actually called the flesh. And the flesh of an apple looks like this. It's on the inside, and it's that yummy, juicy part that you get to eat. Right now, I like the skin of the apple too, so I'll eat both parts. But a lot of you may have your mamas or daddies kind of take that off. But that is the good part of the apple that we get to eat. And so once we have gobbled up our apple and we've eaten it, and it kind of looks like this, where it has two sides on it, what is the name of that part right there, that middle part? That's called the core. That's exactly right. It's the very center of the apple. Now, something very important is in the core of the apple. What is it? What are those dots? That's right, they're called seeds. Those are the seeds. Now, why would it be important to have seeds in an apple? Why didn't God just make an apple tree and have apples, but with no seeds in them? It sure would be easier that we could just eat the whole thing. Why would they do that? Why would he do that? Because we need to make apple trees. That's right. God knew that we needed to have more seeds to make more apple trees. And so that's why he designed the apple to have the seeds in them. So that is part of our project right here that we learned yesterday. And so now what I want us to do is I want us to get our little page out right here that we have. And if you look, there is a little happy apple right there. Okay, now you may or may not have apples at your house right now, and that's totally fine. We're gonna do our science experiment with me. And so you can either do it just with me, or if you end up getting some apples or you have some at home, you can try it with you as well. So either way, we'll get our science project done. So the first thing that I want us to do though, and most of us have eaten apples in the past, is we have a couple of different apples here that I wanna talk about. Now this one is what color? It's red, that's right. This is a red apple. Does anybody know what the name of this red apple is? It's called a Red Delicious. A Red Delicious apple. And I am gonna take a bite of it. Now, I want you to use your thinking caps, because if you don't have any apples there, I want you to think about when you had a red apple before. What do you think it tastes like? It's really good. It's very, very sweet. A red apple is really, really sweet, and that may be your very favorite apple. I don't know, but I sure do love these red apples. Now, we have a different kind of apple, and this is called a Granny Smith. Now, what color is a Granny Smith? Because it's not red. That's right, it's green. It's a green apple. That's right. I love that God is so creative, and he can make apples whatever color he wants to, right? So this green apple is going to taste very different than the red one. Does anybody know what a green apple tastes like? They're super sour. That's right. Or another word could be tart. So some of you might like sweet apples, and some of you might like the tart sour apples. So we can all have different kinds of apples that we like the best. So that is a different kind of apple. I want you to think about that if you've had a green or a red apple before. Now this one you may not have ever tried before. What color is it? It has both colors in it. That's so cool. It has a little bit of red, but it also has a little bit of green in it. And so this is called a Honeycrisp apple. Now, if you've never tasted one of these, this is so good. It's kind of a little bit of both. It has a little bit of a tartness, but it's not too tart. It's got some sweetness in it. So it's a good kind of mix between the red and the green. If you have ever had any of these, what I want you to do right now is take your crayons or your markers, and I want you to go ahead and color in your favorite type of apple. It may be a green apple, it may be a red apple. You know what? Mine are red. And so I am going to color in my little apple with red, because Red Delicious are my favorite. I like sweet things. So that's the first thing I want you to do. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do, since I have my lab coat on, we have to think like scientists, right? So let's review how we're gonna be a scientist. All right, when we are a scientist, the first thing that we do is we what? We ask a question. That's right. So a scientist looks at something and he says, I wonder what will happen if I do this. Or I wonder what this is. That's asking a question. So the first thing that we're gonna do today is we're gonna ask a question. Now the next thing, once we've asked our question, we are going to think. Everybody point to their brain. Remember how we talked about our brains are what helps us think? Well, I want you to think. We're gonna ask a question, and then we're gonna think about what we think that answer might be. So because you are super smart, I know that you probably have a lot of these answers. So we're gonna think about it, and that's called forming a hypothesis. That's a really big word we've been working on all year. All right, so once we've asked the question, once we've thought about what we think it might be, then we're gonna test it. Remember, that's the part where we get to do the experiment, which is super fun. We all love to be scientists. So we're gonna test it. We're gonna test our experiment in just a minute. And then after we test it, we are going to come up with a conclusion. That simply means we did the experiment and now we know what happens. So we asked a question, we thought about it, what our answer might be, then we did the experiment, and now we know what happens, right? So that's what we do. And then the very last thing that we're gonna do is we are gonna record or write down the answers so other people can know. So we are gonna be scientists today. Raise your hand if you wanna be a scientist right now. I wanna be a scientist. My daughter who's filming it, she raised her hands too. She wants to be a scientist. So let's be a scientist together. And so the very first question that it asks is, what shape do you think is inside an apple? So I'm gonna take an apple. We'll take this one right here. And if I cut it straight across like this, what shape do you think is in it? Do you think if we cut it and we open it up, is there's gonna be a square in it? Or is it gonna make a circle? Or a rectangle? Or a diamond? Or maybe even a star? Or a heart? What do you think might be inside this apple? Well, what I want you to do right now is grab your pen, or your markers, your crayons, whatever you have, and I'm just gonna draw a lot of them, but what I want you to do is just draw one. What do you think might be inside an apple? What is that? That's a square. That's right. There's a circle. What if there's this in there? What is that? It's a triangle. That's right. I don't know. Could there possibly be a heart? Or maybe even a star? I don't know. Whatever you think, what I want you to do is just draw it really big inside this right now. All right, so we've asked that question and now we've thought about it and we're putting down what we think it is. All right, now we're also gonna ask another question and come up with our answers at the same time. So this next question is, how many seeds do you think are in your apple? So take a good look at our little apple. How many seeds do you think are in this apple right here? I want you to think about it and make a guess. I'm gonna guess that there are 4, okay? I'm gonna say that there's 4 seeds in this apple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw 4 seeds. So whatever you think yours is, it could be 5. My daughter who's videoing this, we already talked about it, she thinks 7. She thinks there's 7 seeds in here. So it doesn't have to be my answer. I want you to do your guess, all right? And so whatever guess that you do, put that amount of seeds there, draw those seeds, and then write the number that goes with it. So take a minute to do that. And once you've done that, while you are writing and making sure that you have your shape and your number of seeds, I'm gonna cut it and we're gonna see what happens. So, now, I'm gonna go ahead and say the disclaimer. You don't cut your apples, okay? You let your mommy or your daddy cut your apples because knives are really, really sharp. But I am gonna be really super careful and I am gonna cut my apple. All right, so we have asked the question already. We have thought about what we thought it might be. Now we're testing it to see what it is. And you ready? You ready to see what it is? I don't know, let's look. First off, what is that shape in the middle? That's right, it kind of makes a star, doesn't it? It's a star, like kind of like when you go to the beach and you see a silver dollar or star, no, not a starfish, I'm sorry. A sand dollar, and they kind of have that shape too. It has a little bitty star in the center of it. So we need to, now that we've tested it, we have come to a conclusion and we know that it's a star. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna write it down. So I want you to take your marker and I want you to write what the answer is right here, that it's a star, all right? So when you draw a star, it's kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna draw kind of like a letter A. We're gonna start at the top, slide down, hop back up, start over the top, slide back down. And then once you have those two pieces, I want you to draw 2 lines coming out from that. Are you doing it? Good job. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make another triangle, just like that, on either side. You got it? Okay, and then we're gonna make one more set of triangles. Now it doesn't have to look perfect, but now we know the answer. We know that the answer is a star, and you are a super scientist for figuring that out. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to figure out how many seeds are in here, because even though there's only 5 little points on our star, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There could definitely be more seeds than that actually in it. So let me see. Look at that. There's one right here. That's 1. Again, have your parents do this. 2. Oh, goodness. 3. That one shot out. Let's see. Oh, look, there's another one. 4. There's one hiding in here. 5. 6. Oh, my word. 7. 8. 9. Sorry, can't get this one out. 10. There are still seeds in here. 11. And 12. I think that's the most I've ever. Oh, goodness, Hayden, my daughter just showed me there are more on the other side. We have 12 so far. And then let's see. 13. Are you counting with me? I hope so. 14. And then that one was really part of the other one. So we have 14 seeds. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Now, was I right or wrong? Yeah, I was wrong. But that's why we make experiments, right? Because we need to find out the answers, and that's why we test our experiments for our hypothesis. Now, 14 is a really big number, but let me ask this question. Is 14 bigger than 4 or smaller than 4? It's bigger than 4, you're right. So what we're gonna do is let's draw them together. Let's go ahead and make 14 seeds. So here we go, count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are y'all with me? 11, 12, 13, 14. That is a whole bunch of seeds. Oh my goodness. So if we have 14 seeds, how many trees could we make? 14 trees, that's absolutely right. That is so great. So now we need to draw our number. Now, we talk about this a lot. The teens are hard. The teens are hard to figure out what comes first, but we have kind of a little bit of a hint as to how to write a 14. So if 14, remember the teens always start with a 1. So what would that next number be if we were going to do the 14? That's right! You got it! It's a 14. That's exactly right. So a 1 and a 4 together make the number 14. So wow, that was a really, really big apple. I mean, it wasn't really even a big apple, but it had sure had a lot of seeds in it. So that was super fun. Well, now that we've done all of our scientific method, we've finished with our science experiment. Now, if you got to have an apple at home to do your experiment, you should share it with your family because apples are so good for you. So the next time that we will meet will be next week, and we'll start this whole thing over again. Thank y'all so much for all the hard work that y'all done this week. We miss you, and we will see you next week. Oh, I was just reminded of something. Don't forget that if you actually made your apple artwork, go ahead. I'm going to send it on a post on Facebook, and then from Facebook, I want to see what your science experiments look like. You may even want to video it showing me that you know all of the different parts. So what you're going to do is I'm going to post it on our Holy Trinity Facebook site, mine, and then underneath it have your mom and dad actually put under the reply or the message all of your different ones, because I can't wait to see it, and I know Miss Benningfield wants to see it too, because you're so super smart. So I hope y'all have a great weekend. I miss you bunches, and we'll see you next week. Bye.